big elephant in the room. What do we call a child or an adult with special needs and disabilities? A developmentally disabled child, a mentally retarded child, that child who doesn't go to school. Something's wrong, I think a mental handicapped. No, the parents are actually not saying what exactly is wrong. We get so bogged down in what we call them. What makes us sound politically correct? What should I say today that I don't sound inappropriate while addressing them? What should I say today that I sound sensitive enough? Being so bogged in what we need to call them, we most often forget that these are just children and adults who are as different as any two of us here today in this room. Politically correct phrase, I would say, would be special needs, just to hold this topic together today. Because here, special needs is indeed a recognition that normal is relative, and these needs could be extremely high in the seemingly normal people like you and me too. When I think about how quirky and irritable I get in the morning if I don't get my cup of tea, or how quirky I get when I'm introduced to new people and forced to meet people I don't want to, I realize that I'm as full in character and quirks like these children. But I would pass off very easily as what we would loosely call, she's obsessive compulsive disorder. But we call them children with special needs. When I started working with children and adults with disability, I was much clueless on what any of these names meant. Autism, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, PDD, I knew none of these. My knowledge was probably what I could gather from seeing a movie like Tare Zameen Par or maybe I Am Sam. But I guess the best thing that happened to me is not knowing what any of these names meant. Because my entry, my starting point was where each of these children led me into in their lives. And today, years later, having done a few courses, certifying myself enough to be here on this platform, I realize that I'm as confused or more. Because I feel we have boxed and compartmentalized these children based on their abilities, disabilities, mannerisms, functionalities, clearly because we do not understand how these children learn, or we do not understand how do we get across to them what we want them to learn. So when I was preparing for this talk, I was clear that I am going to start with a story. Instead, I thought, what about bringing to you an interesting storyteller, a script writer maybe, or maybe an actor. By screening a little movie with you, there are going to be subtitles to help you understand, by somebody who's acted, directed, and has also scripted this story.
Future in 2050, I take the metro to Paris in the first class compartment. This time he is traveling with Shah Rukh Khan. Both of them are served up Indian and not Indian food in the metro. As they eat, I tells him that had the movie been named Snehadhara years earlier, it would have done better. Hey, the author, a bad heads a smuggling operation with two headquarters, one in the Leaning Tower of Pisa and the other in the Eiffel Tower. The deadline for this smuggling operation is Vijay Abhi Baki hai mere dost. They are in the metro, Shah Rukh Khan and I look out to see a ship called Chennai Express Line. They both get onto it and reach Rameshwaram. Meanwhile, the short film concludes with uttering, the world has no limit. At the end, art is about.
Indeed, the world has no limits for this noisy, inquisitive, loving 16-year-old autistic child. Ahan, a self-learner of languages, soaks himself in information that interests him, is able to read over 5 to 6 Indian languages, yet has never been a part of any regular schooling or learning centers in his life, even for a few months, until 2 years ago. It is this same mind that does get agitated when things do not follow a process, has a meltdown, breaks down, injures himself, harms the other, harms himself, till he finds a way of painstakingly solving this for himself. So what's different between Ahan and us? Everything that we know about ourselves and our world has come through our senses. So our knowledge is clearly is a product of what we hear, see, smell, and touch. And we think about the world in the way we understand or perceive it to be. Although children with disabilities, children with special needs, are in the same physical world and have the same raw material like us, their perceptual world turns out to be strikingly different. For Ahan, this story is very real. This is the way he thinks about the world, and his script comes out of this reality of his. Can any of us here today think of scripting about characters who we've never seen, heard, never known they even existed? It's not possible. Our minds are extremely conditioned here. Another example, while studying about the circulatory system, a child I was working with started labeling parts of the circulatory system. And when we labeled blood vessels, he immediately started, "ये तो खून के बर्तन हैं," which means हमारे body में खून के cookers हैं, mixies हैं. Amazing, I don't think I even thought about this. Another example, today, 21st September 2014 is a Sunday. How many of us here have a calendar memory that would be able to say, in 2004, this day was a Tuesday, or in 2024, this day is going to be a Saturday? We can't. I mean, even to remember our own birthdays, we need Facebook these days, right? These are the different and wonderful minds that make our world multidimensional. Now, how do we communicate with somebody who has a perceptual world different from us, who's speaking a language that is different from what you and me know? How do we understand them? Because they understand things extremely differently. Communication is most often not about speech. It is also about hearing what has not been told. So we need a tool here, a medium that is going to allow us to enter into these lives of these children. What better than the arts, the language of the arts? Art serves as this tool. Dance, music, play, stories, visual art, all this, and can do form the bedrock of learning for these children. So then, does that mean we need to be an artist to be able to start making this beginning? Not at all. I come from a typical family where we are made to sing just after we can talk, and we are taught how to dance just after we can or before we start how to walk. But despite being introduced to the techniques of art much early on in my life, my own experiences of art as healing and learning happened much, much later. With my own journey, my own health that took a toll a few years ago, the journey often with my husband, the stories and unlearnings of my 2 daughters, all of this found a certain rhythm in the stories and the magic that these children brought into our lives. The melody of a calling which said, let's look at creating learning spaces for these children. In the tempo of a dance that said, break barriers, let's move beyond the convention. Let's challenge therapy, not just as treatment, but as learning. There began a new phase, and I guess when you fall in harmony with yourself, the rest of the existence around you falls in harmony too. And I guess that's what happened. Now, a very quick quiz. Guess on an average, how many therapies these children would go to? Just quick, anybody? 2, 3, 4, I heard somebody say 4. On an average, 5 to 7 therapies. Physiotherapy, occupational therapy, cognition therapy, social skill therapy. The newest on the block is something called behavior management therapy, relationship development intervention. With all of these therapies, there's a whole lot of medications that go in to be able to help these children calm down. Anti-explosive drugs is what I heard one parent say. The child is very hyperactive, so we've been prescribed anti-explosive drugs. I wonder what that would mean. Anyways, this looks like a complete buffet. As much as I think each of these may be required to set some domain of the child that is affected, this has to be complemented with holistic learning and learning needs in this child, in any child. Now, arts, it's again a very abstract thing to understand. Let's take drumming. What would it mean to give the child a drum, have the child play on the drum and look at addressing the motor skills of a child whose body is rigid? What would it mean to give the child clay, pottery, play with the medium? There is enough of sensory input. There is enough to address sensory integration in the child. Give the child a keyboard, play with fine motor skills. Give the child a flute, use voice and language. Let the children use music and songs as a tool to be able to achieve speech goals. Use drama and role plays to achieve academic goals. Imagine learning about the water cycle using a dance and movement on evaporation and condensation. How lovely. Let's do something very quickly. I want you to imagine right now that there are raindrops on your face. Tough, right? Now let's do this together. So you're going to repeat after me together. All of you? Yeah? Now we're going to do the same thing again, and I'm going to be saying something quickly. All right, together. Little raindrops falling on my face. I think it's going to rain heavily. We're in floods. Yes, arts is that expression. It is that expression which is going to define the way we think. In short, it is that subtle tool that's going to bypass the powerful rational mind and enter straight into our hearts. Let's look at empowering children and adults with special needs with a medium that is uninhibited, non-threatening, safe, exploratory, and fun. And in this case, fun spelled as F-U-N-N, functional understanding not necessary. Walk with me as I stand. Indeed, as a society, we're all inclusive. When we speak of special needs, this one word inclusion keeps resonating. Defining it is a struggle because each time I try to define inclusion, it's echoed exclusion to the loudest. But Umaima changed this for me. As I walk into a class of 7th graders, 36 children, with Umaima dressed in a burqa, insistent on holding my phone and laptop and books, the class gets up to greet the two of us. I start my class only to realize I forgot introducing Umaima. And when the class goes on, a child from the class gets up and asks me, "What is the name of this principal, ma'am?" Much before I could understand whom this question was addressed to, Umaima, in her typical sing-song style, screams out, "Umaima, Sataf!" The entire class giggles. Of course, she didn't sound anywhere close to that government school principal for sure. At one end, I was extremely thrilled that she could respond to a question so quickly because that's not what she can do. At the other end, I had to tell the class that Umaima is a mentally retarded child and the gap between her physical and mental age is huge. I also told them that if they were going to feel uncomfortable, I won't bring them from the next time. One child out there stands up, sitting close to her and says, "No, ma'am. Why are you saying this?" In Kannada, "Yake madam, nodi, nanagu Hindi disability ide. Look at me. I have Hindi disability too. Everybody in the class can read, but I can't read Hindi." I think that is what inclusion is. And that changed my idea of what it would mean to take the society along. I wish to believe that there is a society in each one of you there, which is going to expand the universe of these children. In the process of thinking together, let's create an ethos, a realm of possibilities, and empower them. Our little Sneha, a child with Down syndrome, who was told by the doctors that she would never walk and talk, today speaks 5 languages. She sings and dances and is clearly our data archive with her memory. If you want to know who's walked in and walked out of the organization, you have to contact Sneha. Sneha led me to set up Snehadhara Foundation, which is still a very little seed, a model that aspires to look at creating opportunities for children and adults with special needs to address life goals, vocational goals, livelihood options, where possible academic interventions, using the arts. With its pioneering therapeutic strategies, it has set up buddy models and overnighters for the children. The buddy model is clearly set up on the premise that each child, each being here is an experience and is a teacher. Today, the space has 35 children, youngest being 4 and the oldest being 32. The overnighters, the central thrust of this is to take forward a responsible relationship with our parents and the children. Inclusion is as much as these children reaching their potential as it is as each one of us to connect and appeal to that compassion which lies within us and around us. As a society, there is just no other way to be, because what we have to gain from these children is far, far more that we can give. So it's high time we start this payback. The learnings that this inquiry holds for me today is that the path begins where the practice starts. You don't need degrees, you don't need qualifications, you don't need a midlife crisis to make this first step. All that you need is to connect to that compassion which lies within you. May I invite each one of you sitting here, each one of you who's watching this, policy makers, medical practitioners, all of us to join hands to tread this journey that has clearly emerged from an arts, our collective past, and towards a shared future. Keeping this collective venture alive and with the keeping the artistic spirit alive, I'm going to request you to dedicate this one song to yourselves as I sing, which says, even if the path is heavy, hold things light. We are filled with love. You are filled with compassion. जो चले ना राह नाजुक है, हमन सर बोझ भारी क्या, हमन है इश्क मस्ताना, हमन को होशियारी क्या, हमन है इश्क मस्ताना. In all humility and gratitude, let's hand over all these merits to the well-being of all children and for all well-beings. Thank you.